Welcome to the Game Week 16 video. So this week kicks off with Norwich and Everton, and the 2-0 win for Watford over Norwich was not surprising. I think, Watford are very good defensively this year. They've shown that consistently, and Norwich don't really pose that offensive threat to cause Watford troubles, in my opinion, and that was vindicated in the home game. Watford won 2-0, and I think Norwich at the moment do look like a team that will be battling relegation, in my opinion. They might be scrapping a good point here and there and get some decent results, but I think they know they're in a relegation battle, in my opinion, because they have a few injuries, and um, I see them struggling at the moment. Everton, on the other hand, it was a great opportunity for them to really springboard up in the table, against Crystal Palace at home. But Palace are a very good team, and with Palace, there's this kind of uncertainty factor. You don't know what you're going to get out of them. And I think for Palace, disappointing that taking the lead at Goodison Park and not really getting the 3 points. But, again, Lukaku scores. I think scored in all the games in November. And, as some of you guys who've been watching my videos will know that I actually encourage guys to get Lukaku at early in November. Obviously, I didn't do that because, I had three strikers that were performing, but there's no doubt Lukaku's up there, and he's in good form, so he's definitely a player to consider. In terms of the Norwich Everton game, if you go by plain statistics, you would say, okay, Everton look like they're favourites here, but Norwich have shown that they're a better team at home. So let's just say this: I'll be surprised if Norwich lose. I think they'll be set up in such a way that they can at least get a point. That's my theory, at least. In terms of players that I recommend, now, I think all the players that I suggested before, in terms of from Everton and from Norwich, I mean, here I would particularly allude to players in Everton, actually. And, with the Ross Barclays, the Delafeus, you've also got Romelu Lukaku as well, who obviously I recommended. Baines is coming back, and he's also a good player to look at. Let's not forget he does have set piece duties, and Everton's penalty situation is not so clear, although it doesn't look like it'll be Baines. But either way, the main thing to note is, if someone's looking to play a risky game in terms of putting more funds in defence, then Baines is definitely a player to consider. So that's my analysis of the early game this game week. Then in terms of 3 o'clock, we have Crystal Palace and Southampton. Like I said, Palace 1-1 draw against Everton last week, and Southampton similarly, they drew 1-1 against Villa. Now, I think Southampton are kind of struggling at the moment, and Palace, on the other hand, good draw against Everton. And looking at the last home win, I think it was 5-1 against Newcastle. I actually think Palace will have enough to overcome Southampton here. Southampton, I think the problem is, I think the inclusion of Ward-Prowse is a good thing in the middle of the path. He's the player people should be looking at. I think he does give them a good outlook, because I think he's so good in set pieces and generally a very good player. So considering his value in fantasy, he's definitely a player to look at in terms of Southampton if you think offensively they pose a threat. I think I can possibly see Crystal Palace conceding, but I think they'll have too much firepower. However, Southampton can turn things around, but I want to go for a Palace win. Man City and Swansea. Man City, important win. First of all, in the home game, which, end of the day, in the Champions League, means they finish top. And there's no doubt when you finish top of your group in Champions League, you potentially assist yourself in terms of getting an easier position in February in the knockout stages. But in terms of the Premier League last week, they were absolutely caught off guard by Stoke. Shaqiri, for me, just played with the defence and really did all the damage in the first 15 minutes. And I think City will realise now I think the Premier League is the toughest. It's going to be very tough for them to actually win this, because they don't look like as if they are champions. And the reason why I say this is because defensively there's too many frailties, and you could be great offensively, which you need to be, But I think in some games they're letting themselves down. If they were so great offensively, obviously they haven't got players like Aguero, and they've all got to come back. Silva, he's coming back, and there's no doubt once he gels with the players around him, City will be even stronger offensively in terms of what they pose as a threat. But defensively, they're really worrying. And Company, you know, I think he does in a way make the defense better because of his physical attributes. But at the end of the day, I think Man City really have fundamental issues with the defense. Even against Borussia Gladbach, they conceded 2 goals, and it's there to see they just don't seem right defensively, and that for me is a big worry in terms of are they really they are title contenders, but whether they can actually be champions. In terms of the Swansea game, in terms of the Swansea game last week, absolutely outplayed by Leicester, and it was disappointing to see that Gary Monk got sacked because you know any manager who's been at a club for a considerable amount of time, he will tell you that he's had tough times. Look at Mourinho at the moment, tough times for him as well. But the key thing is the unity and the trust, and that wasn't there. And it's surprising because Gary Monk, if anyone, has been in the club. He's been affiliated for a very long time, and I saw. Okay, look, Swansea are actually top of the league. So them losing 3-0 against the so-called leaders, that's not really that of a shocking result. I think, is the performance not good enough? Possibly, but can he turn things around? Yes. Does he deserve a chance? 100%. He gave them the best season Swansea's ever had in their history last year. So that was disappointing to see. I think there's too many things happening at Swansea, and I'm going to go for a Man City win. The players, again, looks like Bonny will be starting. Silva, De Bruyne, Sterling. These are the 4 players I really look at. I think Yaya Toure, I wouldn't go for him. I think he might get involved here and there, and he might have the penalty kick actually in this game, which I think he will actually. But long term, Aguero looks like he might be back for the Arsenal game. And as you guys know, I haven't really told you guys to get Aguero because my theory is that he's got a few injury problems which he needs to kind of sort out before you can actually bring him in. But Silva, I think valued at 9.9, maybe even 10 now. He's a player to look at potentially. Only thing I would say is he's more into assists, De Bruyne is more into shots. So you are playing with kind of with a risk factor there. Do you want to go for someone who's going to take maybe more set pieces with Silva? But at the same time, De Bruyne will be taking set pieces. It's always a wonderful goal in the Carling Cup and the free kick. But it's kind of both ways. So yeah, I'm going to go for a Man City win. In terms of Sunderland and Watford, Sunderland played well against Arsenal, and they had their chances, which was for them the disappointing thing. And like I mentioned, Watford, great win against Norwich. Sam Allardyce has pretty much turned things around for Sunderland, but obviously they're still near the bottom of the table. And this is a big, big game, because this is the kind of game, whoever wins for me, is almost like a 6-pointer. But Watford, they've got themselves in a good position such that a defeat for them won't be, that adverse in terms of the situation at the moment in the league. But, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a draw, but I wouldn't be surprised if this went either way, because Sunderland have, been more solid at the back. Okay, against Arsenal, pretty much the game was at 2-1. You have to look at it because Arsenal did score a very late goal. But generally, Sunderland have been much stronger defensively, and Watford obviously have been very strong defensively as well. But I think both have threats offensively. So if Sunderland can create chances away at Arsenal, on the counter, suggests they're a good team. And similarly with Watford, with the Dini and Igalo combination, who've been getting very good points in fantasy. Similarly again, so I want to sound the fence on this one. It could go either way, but probably a draw. But it could go either way. It's not surprising. In terms of the last 3 o'clock game, we have West Ham and Stoke, and like I mentioned, Stoke, great win against Man City, and West Ham 0-0 draw against Man United, and had a very good chance actually with Zarate. He just kind of scruffed it, and I think had he had more composure, West Ham could have taken all 3 points. But Man United did have a few chances here and there as well. I'm going to actually say, because I think Stoke have been quite bad actually in away games. They've been quite good at home, but away they seem to get caught out. But then at the same time, they've picked up some decent results here and there. So with West Ham, I think this is a really big game, but they've got some big blowers. Winston Reid, you look at Lanzini, and I think there's just too many injuries at the moment for West Ham. So I really think it's either going to be a Stoke win or a draw. But that's my prediction. In terms of the late kickoff on Saturday, Bournemouth and Man United, Bournemouth have been, I think they're getting the results that they deserve, and maybe the Chelsea one was somewhat fortunate because the goal was actually, it was offside, but you need luck, and for me they're a good footballing side. So Man United, on the other hand, obviously not a good situation with them being dropped to Europa League from Champions League football, and that's not surprising. I think it's just people are starting to realise Van Gaal's been given £250 million. That's £250 million, and he's not really, for me, progressed in terms of where Man United were at before. Okay, yeah, maybe in results and position, but I think with David Moyes' era and look at Van Gaal's, there's not that much of a difference. I would say actually, if one thing, Man United has been much more luckier, and you have to say there's something that Van Gaal has done for Man United to be more lucky, but eventually it looks like it will run out. So, but in terms of this game, I think Man United will have problems because Smalling is injured, and they obviously have a lot of injuries. But I think they might just have enough in this game. But could be a high scoring draw this game. Could go either way. And I want to say I don't see Bournemouth winning this game. So either a draw or Man United to snatch this. In terms of the Sunday games, Villa and Arsenal, a big point for Villa away at Southampton. I think Remy God was feeling the pressure, and it was an important point. But I still see loads of problems in terms of their defensive setup, and I think Arsenal are too good of a squad to not really catch them out. So it's going to be. I'm going to go for an Arsenal win. Villa might catch the goal, against Arsenal. But Arsenal really showed a really good performance against Olympiacos. Probably one of the best Champions League performances in terms of knowing what you had to achieve and actually what they produced on the day. So I'm going to go for an Arsenal win. In terms of players, I mean, there's not much I would add to from both sides, to be honest. So, and I'll keep it like that. In terms of Liverpool and West Brom, West Brom collecting points like they do with Tony Pulis in charge, picked out a point against Spurs despite being 1-0 down, and Rondon had his chances as well. Liverpool, on the other hand, it was surprising to see them lose against Newcastle just because they looked like they developed somewhat of a really good, team ethos and looked like Klopp's strategy was working. But they got caught out. I think they were unlucky to get 1-0 down. Clearly, Moreno's goal was a goal, and the second goal you should ignore that because that's happened very late on in the game. And so really, Liverpool be somewhat. I think they were unlucky to lose that game. In most scenarios, they wouldn't lose that game. If you play that game 10 times, they probably lose 1 out of 10, and they end up losing it. So that's the way I read that result. Obviously, Daniel Sturridge is a big blow for them. He's out with a hamstring injury, and Coutinho looks like he's back. And looking at the last 3 games he actually played properly, he's been getting near 10 plus points. So at 8.4, someone to look at. They have Firmino as well, and the question is, in regards to Origi, has been performing quite well, and Benteke, I don't think they play to their strengths. I think they don't sometimes cross the ball early on or try to use him as a target man, which is it's really interesting because I think it's going to come to a point where they're going to have to be. I think someone they like Origi, or Origi looks like he'd be the most likely substitute. But if he picks up form, does that eventually mean that Benteke will be dropped because of the way that Liverpool are playing? That's one question that I think some people will have to ask. But that's something for us to see at the moment. Sturridge is injured, so I don't think they have much of a predicament in terms of team selection. And in terms of this game, I'm actually going to go for a Liverpool win. I think Liverpool bounce back. So yeah, in terms of Spurs and Newcastle, great win for Newcastle, but I still think away they have a lot of frailties and they get caught out and they can see quite a lot of goals. So I want to go for a Spurs win. Good Spurs victory against Monaco in the UEFA Cup, although it was pretty much with a second team. And one thing that's interesting is Alderweireld's value. It's really skyrocketed from 5.1 from a few weeks ago to 5.6. It's because he's been collecting points, got some offensive points as well. But the player that I think I prefer defensively rather than Alderweireld, who I think is actually favoured in the BPS system, is Danny Rose. So he's someone that I prefer. Dele Alli is getting involved. He's the player at a reasonable price, actually. So if you want to look at him, sure, look at him as well. There are players very similar near his bracket who you could consider like Stanislas, Lingard, few others out there, but obviously at his price, he's a good shout. But I think with Spurs' Eriksen, Kane, I think these two players might potentially get a lot of points here, maybe against Newcastle. So I'm gonna go for a Spurs win. And lastly, for the Monday game with Leicester and Chelsea, Leicester have been doing great, and Chelsea, frankly, haven't been. But they got an important victory at home against Porto, and I think this game probably end up as a draw. Right? I don't see. For some reason, I just don't see Chelsea winning it. But actually, one thing as well, it's gonna go either way, and that's really difficult to tell this game because if Leicester really turn up and take them head on, then I think they have a chance. Whereas if they play defensively, then I think that gives Chelsea a chance. I think the way that Leicester played actually against Man United, that would favour Chelsea. But if they play like they did against against Swansea away, then I would really favour Leicester to win the game. I think both teams potentially will score, but I think Leicester can outscore Chelsea. So I think it depends on the strategy that Leicester play with, and I don't need to go through the players of Leicester who need to be recommended. That should be very, very clear. In terms of Chelsea, I mean, look, I haven't had Hazard for a few weeks and captained him. It certainly backfired, but he has got close to scoring, and with him now potentially dropped from the striking position back on the wing with Costa forward, I think that really puts him in a negative situation, although he played quite well in the Champions League. And there's also some signs that Hazard and Mourinho's relationship is quite strained. So also Willian got another goal. He's probably a bit safer bet in a way. So taking everything on board, Chelsea's it's a bit weird in terms of the situation. They also have Courtois back from last week, something that I didn't mention, but yeah, he's back now, and that wasn't surprising to see him play actually last week. It was pretty much predicted. So in terms of my prediction for this game, I really can't call it. I just can't because I think it could go either way, and it really depends on how Leicester approach the game. So that's my analysis of this game week, and I've discussed also the results from the previous game week. So I'd like to say good luck for this game week, and if you guys have not joined the Fantasy Football League, there's a previous video with the league code, so do join that. And yeah, so thanks for watching my video.